Okay. Looks like everything is working. No problems like the last stream so far. Nothing's crashed on me yet. Everything looks fine. Okay. All the screen capture is fine. All good. All good. Bum, bum, bum. Ba-ba-da-ba-bum. Let's see. Okay, cool. Everything seems to be going as expected. Alrighty. Let's get this show on the road. Hello, everybody. I'm your boss, Joe Boss, and welcome to another week ahead trade plan. We're going to be going over some notes. We're going to be going over some charts like this. And real quick. Just make sure I have my notifications turned off, just to make sure that nothing shows up here. No messages and whatnot from people get leaked or whatever. And one last notification to get anyone in who wants to be in, because now the stream is going to be started. We can turn off the studio mode here. Sweet. All right, now everything is set. Everything is done. Good. Only about 3 minutes of setup. Oh, man. Alrighty, where to begin? Well, I said we could start with notes, so let me go ahead and do that. I can move the notes, actually, over here. Oh, it's a flashbang. Let's see here. Night. How about dark? Dark mode. Toggle dark mode. Oh, that's so much easier to read. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying out this new PDF reader, and I'm pretty happy about it. This is a report I do, weekly Outlook notes, and we're just going to be covering the first 2 pages here. And right off the bat, as far as geopolitical updates go, the U.S. Treasury Department has unsanctioned Russian and Iranian oil temporarily. The Treasury has allowed Russian oil to enter India unsanctioned on March 5th until April the 4th to ease global inflation pressures. The Treasury Secretary Bessent announced that the U.S. is unsanctioning 140 million barrels of Iranian oil currently loaded on tankers and satisfies about 2 weeks of demand. The Treasury also announced a general license allowing limited transactions of sanctioned oil until April 11th for tankers loaded with oil and put out to sea before March 12th. And there we got 3 more little bullet points here for geopolitics for the United States. Trump and Xi scheduled meeting in China has been delayed to late April or early May due to the operation in the Middle East. U.S. tariff refunds actually start next April, on April 20th. That's kind of a big deal. And a total of $166 billion is expected to be refunded. That's a big, big deal. Ultimately, the U.S. Treasury will be able to actually handle that refund, too. There were a few charts showing how much cash they had on hand. So they'll be able to take care of that. The USMCA, as the final point here, will have its first mandatory joint review on July 1st, where if no agreement is reached, the USMCA switches to annual term reviews instead of a 16-year term review. Okay, now for the European Union. We had a bunch of election updates, and also because some of these dates are literally for today, these notes are a bit out of date. They're still accurate for all the events that have occurred up until today, but I wanted to make sure that I included one or two things for the more recent data. So I'm going to, on the side here, drag this out like so. All right. And if we do, I believe this, yeah, there we go, and zoom in, and then we can move this guy over to the right. Okay. So I just asked, hey, give me an update on the elections for these countries in the Rhineland and France and Spain and the constitutional referendum in Italy today. Those were the big things happening right now today. So the CDU, Christian Democrats, won the election that happened today in Germany, followed by the Socialists, and then the AfD. The CDU-SPD coalition appears to be likely if they hold a combined majority. French municipal elections, the second round of the runoffs. Polling stations closed in most areas by evening. Early announcements and live coverage indicate results are being reported of notable contests in Paris and Marseille. I don't know if I said that correctly. Drawing attention amid far-right gains in some areas. You mean the National Rally, right? And left-wing holds elsewhere. You know, it's kind of funny. They call AfD far-right and National Rally far-right, but they're very nationalist, populist parties now. I mean, when you look at, for example, far-left party, like I've seen the socialists, the communists outright far-left party and what they believe, and they really are extremists. In fact, they had to walk back some of the comments that their leadership made the other day because they were like, oh, we want to leave NATO. We want to get France out of NATO, is what the far left was saying. And, you know, National Rally doesn't want us to leave NATO. There was a moment there where they were saying we need to leave the European Union and the Euro area. We need to bring back the franc, right? The French currency. Let's see here. Spain, no major national or significant regional elections occurred. The next one, gotcha. The Italian constitutional referendum. Let's see here. Italy's constitutional referendum on judicial reform is underway today and continues tomorrow. Okay, so voting is still going here. Just for some background, the reform, backed by Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, her right-wing government, to vote yes, faces strong opposition from the left and judiciary groups who are trying to vote no, who argue it threatens judicial independence. Well, what it's doing is it says, hey, we want two branches of the judiciary. We want the judges and the lawyers essentially separate. We don't want the judges and the lawyers to be in the same branch of government. We want them separated. And so if you become a judge at the beginning of your career, you can't go into the other branch of government. If you're a prosecutor at the beginning of your career, you can't go and then become a judge. I don't know the full extent of the background, frankly, for this constitutional referendum. There's only so much I can follow. So if anybody knows more about this specifically, because I have been curious for a while, and I don't think there's enough background information on exactly what the motivations are in Italy for this on the Wikipedia page. It seems quite lacking to me. I need more information on this. Like, what were the event catalysts that drove this into legislation, that drove this into the culture as a priority issue? I kind of want to see what the grievances of Maloney are here for backing this constitutional referendum. Let's see here. Hello, Ani. It's the boss, the Joe boss. Hello, hello. How are you today? I'm doing great. Thank you for showing up. Oh my god, the last stream was fantastic. And today, right now, everything is nice. This is so nice and chill. You know, everyone wants updates on the Iran commodities crisis. So that's what you label that stream, right? And then I label this stream, oh, central bank updates. And everyone's just like, me. You just fall asleep. And you know what? For the people who care, they'll watch this and they'll get some good information out of it. But most people who are already central bank watchers, frankly, are already getting good information out of wherever they are getting it. Because it's not like we're going to be covering anything terribly fantastic here. But man, I had been writing this central bank watch summary for a while in my weekly notes. And I went ahead and I took it out at the beginning of the year just as a break because it was always taking so long to update all the information here. And now I've added it back in because I've developed the new format, and I really like this format here where it says, hey, here's the central bank, here's how they voted at their last meeting, here's the statement and the conference, the link to the statement and the conference for that central bank's meeting. So if you want like the whole press release or you want the whole statement to read it because you're particularly exposed to a particular countries and the policies of that central bank, then you can immediately go and indulge yourself and read the entirety of that right there. Of course, if you're already on top of it, you're reading it as soon as the stuff comes out, right? And then it says their policy interest rate changed from this to this, on what date. And then we have a highlight, a comment here. And it just says, hey, for the Bank of Canada, they're looking through the volatility from the Middle East. Recent data also suggests ongoing weakness in reports. So if we actually do this now, if we go to $CAD, and I believe I actually have $CAD here. Yeah, there we go. I'm getting used to TradingView hotkeys much more explicitly now. And it is making the experience quite seamless. Like being able to do this and zoom out without having to move things around so much. Oh man. Like it's so nice being able to just zoom around here. Actually, I wonder what the difference is between Alt and Control, left and right, because they seem to be doing the same thing. But it's such nice, smooth animations, and you don't get to see that if you're just moving your mouse around like this. However, it's still quite smooth. TradingView makes such great charts. So this is the $CAD, and we were just reading this bit here on the Bank of Canada. And let's see here. It's too early to assess the impact of the conflict in the Middle East on growth in Canada. The Bank of Canada is fully expected to hold at their April 29th meeting. Yeah, and so the last part of all of these paragraphs is saying, hey, here are the odds for the next meeting. So you can see for FOMC, the FOMC is expected to hold at their April 29th meeting with 92% odds. And then at the bottom of each paragraph is a link to the schedule for each central bank. So let's say we wanted to, I don't know, check out the Bank of Japan's schedule. So we could click over there, open a new tab. Let's go here. And there you go. There's the upcoming releases for the Bank of Japan right there. So it's like, oh, you know, I wonder what's going on next, when the next central bank speech is going to happen. So we do speech, You can do speeches and statements. So this is just the release schedule. Yeah, so that's just the release schedule. Monetary policy meetings, coming monetary policy meeting dates. Yeah, so it doesn't seem like there's actually a speech calendar at the moment here. Maybe I'm just missing something. Because there should be... Well... Oh, man. Okay, so there's some good stuff coming out here. There's Tonkin coming out here. Minutes? Yeah, there's the minutes. So... Oh, those are the minutes for the January meeting. Okay. So minutes for the January meeting are coming out on March 25th. Well, that's not going to be terribly interesting because we want the minutes from March to actually understand what the Bank of Japan is thinking going into the Middle Eastern operation here. Let's go ahead and check out a few other assets. Here's New Zealand. We gapped down on New Zealand. This trade is still doing quite well. Here is crude oil. Crude oil is so far up. The market hasn't opened, but if we do UK oil here. Yeah, UK oil still hasn't opened either. I know that there are some... I mean, let's see. How about US oil? On FXCM? No. All right, so... No oil chart right now. I mean, there's probably some crypto derivative, frankly. I know Trade XYZ has a chart. Being awake this early should be fucking illegal. Oh my god, Ari. Dude. Oh, holy shit. God, man. Yeah, people are busy on Sundays. Nobody comes to watch the stream, but you know what? We got a lot of people watching last Friday, man. It was a very successful stream, and all I did was fucking read geopolitics the entire stream, man. And today, I was like, oh man, I didn't go over any charts. I didn't do any trade plans or trade expectations or whatnot. So that's what I'm doing in this stream mostly. And it would kind of be funny if what ends up happening is more people end up watching my streams for the geopolitical content than the actual trading content. That would be kind of nutty in my opinion, right? That'd be kind of nutty. All right, let's see here. I just got funneled by the AN spreads. Oh my god. Let's go ahead and check that out. Australian AZ, no, AUD NZD, the cross pair, and also I believe we're looking at footprint charts there. Yeah, we don't want to be looking at footprints. Oh my god. Oh my god. That looks... Oh man. It's down already like 20 pips on the open here. Let's go ahead and look at the 2-hour chart so we get a bit more data. Oh man. Oh man, oh man. All right, let's look at the 6-hour. Or no, that's 5-hour. Okay, wow. Yield spreads are actually quite positive at the moment. Well, that does make sense, but I am kind of curious now. So Aussie dollar then should be way lower. Wow, that's a pretty serious gap. Yeah, it's a 20 pip gap. And then if we look at and compare it to New Zealand dollar, we're looking at a... Right? Come on, TradingView. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hit Control and left click. And sometimes when you do the left click, it does something else. So this gap's only 11 pips, while the one on Australia, on Aussie dollar, is about 20 pips. So the gap is twice as big over there. So it makes sense for Aussie, New Zealand to be down right now, because Aussie is just way worse. And we had bearish expectations going in, but obviously our expectations were far exceeded going into the close here. I was expecting a more conservative move, and then we just fell like a rock right here, right? We just fell like a rock. And now, if I can, I'd like to actually check out. Actually, I believe it's here. Yeah, I want to go to this chart, and then I want to look at Bitcoin real quick. Well, we hit this expectation. This expectation followed through. This expectation was totally missed. So we did not have that expectation hit. Bitcoin has continued to fall instead of rally into end of week there. And, you know, that's just what happens sometimes. Your expectations aren't met. But it's good to know when your expectations aren't being met, so that then you can learn how to adjust to set better expectations in the future. That's why it's so important to, even when you're wrong, to just be like, oh, okay, I was wrong. Like, you can take it as personally as you want, but you need to know when you're wrong, so that then you can learn from it. Because if you fail to learn from your mistakes, you're not going to have... you're not going to be able to build up the muscle memory. You're not going to be able to actually build up the knowledge you need to know when to course correct. So that wasn't, in the grand scheme of things, like a super extreme expectation. But even way back here, you know, we were saying, oh, you know, if the war takes a couple of weeks, if it's done by the end of March, we could probably see 70, 80,000. We did see price trade in the 70K handle, but we didn't reach that 80K. And right now, if the war continues to go on all the way up into, let's say, end of May, so that's like way over here, right, for another 2 months. If these disruptions continue to go on for another 2 months, and like the Europeans still refuse to get involved, even though they're getting hit economically so hard right now. The Middle Eastern countries, I know Saudi Arabia is gearing up to get involved more militarily in the conflict. And also there's a huge humanitarian crisis going on right now with so many people stuck on the ships. If I go to, let's see, x.com, I know x.com, right? But there are posts from Sal Macargiano that I wanted to highlight on this. Sal, what's going on with shipping? If I search that on X, I should find Sal. Wow, Sal is actually not the first person who shows up when I search that. Okay, so what I am looking for is... And I can actually pull this up in front on the stream for you guys. Seductive Sunday, yikes. All right. What I want actually is something... Dude, isn't that just so cool how you can just throw shit around on the screen? Humanity. Okay. And now we just scroll down, load a bunch of posts. No. Essentially, there's a ton of people right now who are stuck on ships in the Persian Gulf. All those tankers that are in the Persian Gulf that can't pass through the strait are stuck. They are stuck, and they're running out of food. They're running out of water, and there's thousands of people on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf who cannot leave. And they cannot dock because a lot of the docks to unload cargo, they are not allowing people to dock. Because if a ship gets blown up while in dock, it makes it impossible to then use the dock until the ship gets moved. Man, oh man. Oh, one sec. Okay. What's this? Oh, they extended the general license. Remember, we read that at the very beginning of the stream? The general license up here. This is actually saying that the U.S. has extended this general license not just to tankers loaded before March 12th, but also to tankers loaded as of March 20th. Iranian origin loaded on vessels as of March 20th, 2026. Wow. So they are extending it. Wow. Okay. See, this is why we got to follow Sal when it comes down to this stuff, because Sal is always on top of it. It's his specialty. It's his specialty, and he does a great job of keeping up with stuff. Oh, man. Yeah, this guy is quite a critic of the Trump administration. He's been saying a lot of stuff. He's a taco guy. He's a taco analyst. That's what he is. He's a taco analyst. Okay, enough of scrolling on X. Let's get back to the main event. So let's see here. Germany is having a super election year where all 5 state elections are occurring in the state of Germany. The Greens remain the largest party after their election in Baden. The AfD doubled its seats in the state. The next election is in Rhineland, and we just looked at the results for the Rhineland. And that was showing that the CDU and the Socialists won. AfD did advance a bit. And then second round of French elections are still occurring. Same thing with the constitutional referendum. And this is an update on the elections that were held last week. We had the Christian Democrats, the People's Party, short for PP, taking 33 out of 82 seats. The Socialists, the PSOE, took 30 seats, and the National Conservatives, Vox, took 14 seats. People's Party and Vox are expected to create a coalition over there in Spain. Yeah, and then there are another set of regional elections on May 31st and June 21st. Let's see here. Japan. Oh, yeah, this was actually kind of interesting. Japan, they rushed through their fiscal policy budget. They rushed it through the Diet, which is the lower house of Congress, effectively, in Japan. And they passed it in like 2 days. Like 2.5 days. It was extraordinarily fast for a budget to be passed that quickly. And now it's off to the Senate for final approval, and that's expected to happen before the 31st of March. If it's not passed, then Japan will need to pass a provisional budget. And then we have the 2 new BOJ governors, or BOJ board members, and they're expected to be inaugurated on April 1st and sometime in June. In the UK, they are getting some new legislation on taxes on April 6th, and there were reactions to these fiscal policies are expected to influence elections on May 7th, where a lot of seats are up for election. We actually have a research thread for this election, so if you're trying to follow what's going on locally in the UK, because how these elections go, while definitely impacted by the fiscal policy that occurs, it's also going to impact the next general election, how these things move. It's going to give us a little bit of insight into who might be the new prime minister, who might come to power next in the UK. And then there were some Swiss referendums. New Swiss referendums are on June 14th, where they're actually going to have an immigration referendum covering an imposition that only 10 million permanent residents can be in Switzerland by 2050. So they're putting a cap on the number of individuals also transferring from military to civilian life. That could also change. Let's see here. What else is there? Oh yeah, there's the bilaterals 3 package. It's a refresh of a bunch of trade agreements. That's expected to pass here in March. I haven't seen much come down the pipe as far as that goes, but it's expected to finally go through. Let's see here. The Labour Party won in South Australia. They had an election. As expected, One Nation got their strongest result ever and may win a couple of seats. And the Liberals lost seats to Labour and One Nation in the South Australian state election. And then the Australian federal budget expected to be presented by the Treasurer Jim Chalmers on May the 12th. So there's a lot of things, a lot of forward-looking things out here. And then you can see stuff for New Zealand is still far, far, far out. I wonder what the fiscal policy is actually going to look like. It's probably going to look drastically different now than what we expected even a couple of months ago. EU, I was thinking, Ivan has gone long EU. I was thinking it might be a good hedge. I'm not too sure, because if we look here just in the notes, if we control F for euro dollar and look through things, a rapid de-escalation remains the clearest upside for euro dollar. Let's see here. A hawkish tone from ECB offered the euro some temporary relief, but the broader backdrop remains hostile. So far, since the start of the Middle East crisis, the weaker euro-dollar has foremost been driven by negative moves in European equities as well as oil and gas. If/when the unwind happens, flows will further support dollar, and they're talking about unwinds in equities, judging by CTA positioning. Let's see here. As the eurodollar holds a positive beta to both European and global equities. So if equities sell off, eurodollar is also expected to sell off, meaning further sell-off should be negative euro, and then euro USD positioning have turned to short territory, but it's far from stretched. So it's a new short territory there. And then here we have some forecasts from Danske Bank. You can see those forecasts in the top right. Let's pull up the Eurodollar chart here. I was even saying some like 112 forecasts over the 3-month time horizon. So if I do this and adjust this coordinate for 112, and we can hide some of these things, and I believe it's this to hide drawings, but we can't hide the drawings right now. But yeah, this is what we are dealing with. Whoa. Okay. I really wish I could hide drawings much, much more easily based off time frame. But this from here to here is what we are currently dealing with. Going from roughly 116, we're about 20 pips off from 116, to 120. Yikes. So it's roughly 400 pips lower where a lot of expectations are being set right now for the euro dollar. And you can actually see there's Danske Bank's forecast for 112 3 months out, 113 1 month out. Euro dollar has declined notably since our previous forecast update, driven primarily by the war in Iran. With no quick resolution in sight, we expect the downturn to continue in the 1 to 3 month horizon. Looking further ahead, we still think that weakening structural growth outlook in the US could revert the cross to a rising trend in 6 to 12 months, which was the consensus expectation actually before the attacks were happening here. Before the Operation Epic Fury began, before the US operation began, the expectation was for a weaker systemically weaker US dollar throughout the rest of the year, pretty much. But now, with this crisis going on, especially the commodities crisis right now due to the operation, it's very, very likely that even this expectation of a 6 to 12 month horizon for the US dollar to actually rebound is wrong if the conflict goes on for longer than 6 months, or if the commodities impact goes on for longer than 6 months. Now, look, my expectation is that we will start seeing some commodities relief within the time frame being described here. That's my baseline expectation, and that is the baseline expectation of also people in the prediction markets. Now, when it comes to whether or not this 6 to 12 month horizon is when we actually see dollar rebound, it's going to depend on how quickly we see a normalization of commodity supply, and thus a normalization also of commodity prices. Because if commodity prices remain extraordinarily high, it's going to impact growth more negatively on countries that were taking in those commodities. The US, is a lot more insulated from a lot of those commodity issues. They will still have commodity issues, don't get me wrong. But a lot more commodity issues in the rest of the world are going to be exacerbated much more significantly. Like with Australia and New Zealand and a lot of countries in Asia right now having issues getting fuel. There's a huge fuel crisis going on specifically. There's planes getting canceled and delayed. International flights are getting mass canceled all across Asia right now. People are in Australia, Ari, we saw this. We saw that post of just a row of cars in Australia, and people were siphoning gasoline out of cars, stealing the gas because of how valuable it's going to be. And then I saw another video of a guy loading up this big plastic tank just full of gas, just chock full of gas, putting it in the back of his truck. Oh my God. And then we're not talking about like the ghetto guys who are putting plastic, gasoline in plastic bags. We're talking about someone who legit has a proper big ass container for gasoline, and it's just filled it to the brim and loaded it in the back of his truck and drove off with this like several $100s worth of gas that might turn into several more $100s worth of gas by the time he actually gets across to using it. But man, it's going to impact a lot of people, these commodity issues. It's really, really going to be a problem. So I do, as much as I would like to see the dollar weaken in the second half of this year, as is expected right now, I do not think that the rebound that they're expecting, like from 112 to 117, is actually a reasonable expectation unless we actually get follow through on commodity supply normalization. That's what I think. And then we have some more here saying, hey, the weaker euro dollar has foremost been driven by negative moves in European equities, right? I believe we already read this, right? Yeah. So that's pretty much what we got here, right? And then you can see Danske Bank's forecast, right? The consensus is in gold, and the forecast is still in this shade of white, light baby blue. And I'm not too sure how realistic that is. It's really going to depend on how quickly things recover. So if I go back to the top, and I believe down a bit more. Oh yeah, next major elections in Canada are in October. That's good to know. But yeah, we can start doing some trade plans. So let's go to, we can actually close that. Do this. Now, let's see, what assets can we check out here? What assets can we check out? Well, we are about to go into the month ahead. Maybe we save month ahead trade plans for next weekend. But actually, I gotta say something. I'm not gonna be here next week. I'm not going. I'm going to be gone from this Thursday, from here, to next Wednesday. I am going to be doing a little bit of traveling, actually. And guess what? I bought my tickets like a month ago. So, or at least a couple of weeks ago. And so I got like extremely, extremely cheap tickets. I checked my ticket prices and they effectively have doubled. The cost of ticket prices for domestic plane flights, for at least the trips that I'm taking, have gone up. But because I got them sooner, I don't have to worry about those higher prices hitting me. Now, when it comes down to, so this is the time I'm going to be gone for. It's not a big deal. But it means I'm not going to be able to do some streams tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to do some videos tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to do notes next week. However, I do have a laptop. I'm going to be bringing that with me. And depending on how performant the laptop is, because I got to say it is an older MacBook. It is, it's the one with the touch bar on it. And I was like, oh, I'm not too sure I particularly like that, but still got it anyways because it was very, very fast when I got it, and now it's slow as shit and hardly holds a charge. So when I do my traveling, when I get some time, I will see if that laptop holds up. Maybe I can get some good work done. We'll see what I can do with it. Other than that, let's continue on. I, though, want to actually check the seasonal odds here for this next week. We can go to 12-hour chart. The other thing to also check out is going to be, oh wow, these are pretty far. These are pretty uniformly distributed closing odds. Okay, so that's all already off the bat not good. We're going to look at the low odds here for the week. And it says most of the closes next week occur between Central Pivot S1. So the point of being cautious, I'd say, is here below S1. And then you start dealing with maybe going into this area between S2, S2.5. Again, based on seasonal data, we're going into geopolitical shocks, exogenous shocks. So we may need to expect even further moves than that, depending on how things develop. But yeah, I would not be surprised to see 112. Actually, we do have some lines here. Wow, these lines go way, way back. This line here goes from that low to that low. So these two lows generate a ray. And those are from years and years and years ago. And right now, that ray is right around here, where now people are expecting to hit 112. So it's always kind of funny when you look at those things, technical analysis wise, and you're like, well, that kind of lines up with what expectations are currently. You don't necessarily need this line here to set that expectation. In fact, you don't really set an expectation to go to 112 if you don't have bearish and negative euro-dollar expectations, frankly. Because right now the king is the squawk, the news feed, right? That is the king right now for determining what to do with trades. And how well you can interpret those news feeds will determine how quickly, aptly you can react and put on maybe some position in response to that news. Let's go ahead and check the ranges. Okie doke. Whole lot of nothing. I mean, I think we need to actually start doing the monthly trade plans. Yeah, so see, we hit that likely low. Whoop. I think I accidentally moved my alert. Kind of sucks. But going past these lows, you start talking about really unlikely lows, and then it's just pure, really, really, really strong volatility moves. And there's a lot of dots down here. So when we look at the timing dots, there's a lot of freaking dots here. So given this is the top 4 of the month, oh man, there's a lot of dots. There's a lot of dots down here. I'd be careful going into trading next week on the long side. If this is not, in fact, the low for the month, I would explicitly be careful about trading in the mid 112 handle, sub 113 potentially. And look, there's a lot of dots right around here. Sub 114 is on the cards, but sub 113 is also on the cards, depending on how volatile things get. And considering now Trump has said, hey, Iran, you have 48 hours to comply with opening up the Strait of Hormuz. Otherwise, we're going to come in and bomb and destroy some of your energy power plants. I don't think Trump is targeting commodity production fields, like oil and gas. I think he's explicitly going after Iranian electricity. And the Iranians, in response, came out and said, oh, if you're going to attack us there, then if you do that, we will start attacking any country that hosts U.S. military bases, which goes also directly against what they had said not even a week or so ago, that, hey, Middle Eastern countries, we're sorry that we attacked you in retaliation to the U.S. and Israel attacking us initially in Operation Epic Fury. We're sorry that we retaliated against you guys. And we will agree not to attack you if you do not attack us back. And what have the Iranians done? They've just continued to attack the other Middle Eastern countries, saying, oh, well, you have U.S. assets. Oh, you have these oil refineries and these LNG refineries. Oh, well, they have U.S. shareholder interests in them. So we're justified in attacking it. Well, you know what? Maybe I should pull this up. Maybe I should just pull this up, because I went ahead and did a little X rant on this, and I can go ahead and do this, do that, chuck it over here. Iran's justification for counterattacking Qatar and blowing up some trains after Israel hit the South Pars is that ExxonMobil owns a minority share of 25 to 35% via joint venture in those Qatari trains. And Qatar owns the rest. So Iran has effectively entered a new phase of the war and struck energy facilities linked to the United States and American shareholders. And this is the actual response from Iran officially saying, hey, we are attacking United States and American shareholders in these countries. And then this is the Qatari state-owned LNG giant, Qatar Energy, saying, hey, this is what was hit when Iran attacked us. And right there, I have to move it over here, you can actually see at the very bottom, the attacks damaged 2 liquefied natural gas producing trains, 4 and 6, totaling 12.8 million tons per annum of production, representing approximately 17% of Qatar's exports. Train 4 is a joint venture between Qatar Energy, they own 66%, and ExxonMobil, they own 34% of Train 4. And Train 6 is a joint venture between Qatar Energy, where they own 70% of the train, and ExxonMobil, who owns 30% of the train. So they're not attacking U.S. government military facilities. They're saying, hey, if it's got an American shareholder, it's fair game. We can hit it. And so that's their justification. Iran's justification for counterattacking Qatar and blowing up some trains after Israel hit the South Pars. So instead of Iran counterattacking Israel for hitting them, they're not retaliating against Israel. They're retaliating against Qatar because ExxonMobil has a minority share in some fucking trains. Like, what the hell kind of rationale is this? And, you know, it's one thing maybe if they attacked a U.S. military base, right? Because the Iranians just came out and said, oh, in response to your demands, Trump, in the next 48 hours to surrender effectively or to stop obstructing the Strait of Hormuz traffic, well, what we want to do is we want you, in exchange for that, to exit the Middle East from all of your military bases. We don't want any U.S. military bases in anywhere in the Middle East. And if you do that, then we will let you do it. And it's like Iran is trying to make the fucking demands here. I don't think so. I think Iran's not really in a position to be making those demands right now. It's, you know, they're trying to portray strength. I'll give them that. But they're not very strong right now. They're getting bombed to bits. They're getting bombed to bits, and rightfully so, because they were massacring tens of thousands of people back in January. And people seem to be forgetting that's why the U.S. was going in. Before the whole U.S. military buildup, before all that happened, there were all these massacres, all of these massacres. And people seem to forget that's why the U.S. went in. It wasn't because of Israel. It wasn't because the U.S. is, they just hate Iran. Oh, man, they just, all these neocons, right, in the U.S. Like, no. There was a mass humanitarian crisis where they were killing tens of thousands of people, innocent protesters. Trump said, stop killing them. And the entirety of Europe condemned the attacks and asked Iran, stop fucking doing that. Even the other Middle Eastern countries and Asia, China was condemning it and saying, stop doing that, stop killing citizens. And the United States, out of all of them, was the only one willing to actually go in and say, if you don't do it, the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go in to protect these people. And you know what? Everyone else is just standing by and holding their dick and complaining, oh man, my energy prices, they're going so high. Well, you know what? If you got involved during the military buildup back in fucking February, maybe things would be a lot easier in taking control of the Strait of Hormuz and suppressing these missile attacks and suppressing all of this shit that's now going on with Iran trying to blackmail the United States out of the Middle East. And you know what's also kind of ironic is that the Middle Eastern countries that are now being hit by this very unjustly are all encouraging the United States, just keep going. Just keep going. We got to get rid of these guys. We just got to get rid of them at this point. Just keep going. The Middle Easterners are saying to get rid of them. If you guys remember, when Operation Epic Fury began, there were videos upon videos upon videos of the entire Iranian diaspora that has left Iran, celebrating and waving flags. There was that huge song that happened, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is dead. And then everyone, the beat drops, right? And you know what? I was there with them, right? I have videos of myself showing those videos and being excited for it, right? I didn't think the war would even last this long, personally myself. But you know what? That's because I thought after blowing up and killing all of the Iranian leadership practically and 80% of their offensive capabilities would get them to fucking stop. But no, these people are a theocratic, authoritarian regime, and they're religious zealots, the religious extremists. They will not give up and they will fight to the bitter end until they are dead. So that's what they've signed up for, and that's what they're committed to do. And they will hold the world hostage at the Strait of Hormuz and cause another humanitarian crisis. On top of the tens of thousands of people that they killed back in January, they are going to cause another humanitarian crisis with all of these crew members stuck in the Persian Gulf. All these people fucking now stuck in the Persian Gulf, sitting on ships, running out of food, running out of water. Thousands of people on these ships can't get the hell out of the Persian Gulf. They can't cross the Strait of Hormuz because they're afraid their ships are going to get droned and people are going to get killed if they try and cross it. So that's why Trump is accelerating here. That's why he's escalating. If he doesn't start doing something to get these people out, because Europe's sitting there fucking holding their dick, China's sitting there not getting involved, Russia's not getting involved, because as soon as the Russians try and get involved, the Ukrainians are going to push as hard as they fucking can to take advantage of any kind of pullback into Iran to help with them. So it's not going to fucking happen there. Iran is alone, and the only people who right now are working on suppressing Iran are the few Middle Eastern countries, primarily Saudi Arabia, from what I understand. The Pakis have said that they might get involved, but it's mostly Israel, United States, and you know, it'd be a lot easier if Europe got involved. It'd be a lot easier if Europe just got involved, if the Western nations, if NATO just got in and handled this situation and got rid of the regime. It'd be over so much more quickly. All of these countries have massive economic interests in this too. It's not like, oh, man, if only the United States wouldn't act so unilaterally. You guys are in alliances with the United States. You guys can get involved, okay? And they said, oh, man, this is so bad, back in January when all those people were getting killed. Merz was saying it. Macron was saying it. Albanese was saying it. Luxon was saying it. Takaichi was saying it. The Prime Minister, oh my God, he's already on his way out. Prime Minister of the UK was saying it. Every single, most opposition leaders in Europe for all these political parties were saying it. There's a very small minority of people saying, oh man, this is, you know, this is just a color revolution that's being prompted by the CIA to overturn Iran, is what a handful of people were saying. And that, though, a lot of those guys were in Spain, right? A lot of those guys were in Spain. So now, you know, obviously I'm getting very passionate about it, but it's like a lot of this could have been totally avoided. Absolutely totally avoided. A lot of this pain, economic pain explicitly, and now because of this delay in assistance, it's going and just putting all the effort, just saying, hey, US, you want to take care of this humanitarian crisis of the Iranians killing tens of thousands of their own citizens? You want to handle on your own? Go ahead. But you know what? We're not going to get involved. And you know what? The only thing when talking to people, when I've been talking to people, kind of displaying this grievance of like, you know, if Europe is behind condemning these atrocities, why aren't they getting involved with the United States? Why don't they see this as a just intervention, right? Why don't they see this as the right thing to do in history? And the strangest thing, the consensus, like across everyone I've talked to and asked this question, they've all said, oh, it's because there's so many immigrants that would get mad and cause a ruckus, effectively, to put the expressions that I heard mildly. And I'm like, really? You think they have that these immigrants have that much power in these European countries, that these leaders are afraid to get involved because of that? And then I think back and I'm like, you know, is that really where Europe is right now? Where they're afraid to get involved in their own economic and, frankly, ethical self-interests? Because it's you know, when they talk about democracy, oh, we need democracy. You know, if you want to help citizens who are being massacred set up a democracy and they're being suppressed by terrorists, heavily armed terrorists, you have to help get rid of the terrorists. You have to disarm them. You can't just say, oh, citizens, keep going out to the street and getting shot to death. Those terrorists are not going to stop shooting them. They need someone to protect them. And that's really where the Western world excels at. And that's where the U.S. is trying to do right now. People seem to forget that's how this mess started. If Iran wasn't shooting all of their citizens, if they weren't killing all these people in the first place, the United States would have never gone in. Israel would have never launched their attacks, none of this would have happened. None of it would have happened. And people seem to forget that's why we're there in the first place. They want to blame neocons, they want to blame Israel, but they don't want to blame Iran for the people that they've been killing, right? They don't. It's like, oh man, I just want to blame the United States. I want to blame the United States for this economic hardship in my country. Well, you know what? Your country can serve its best interests by getting involved. You know, especially a lot of these Asian countries. A lot of these Asian countries are going to get hit especially hard. And they don't want to get involved. They don't want to do a joint operation. They don't want to join Operation Epic Fury for whatever reason. They just want the US to do all the work for them. They want to wear down the United States. They want the US to use all their missiles. They want the US to use all their anti-defense. They want the US to just do the fucking job for them. And we'll do the job, and we'll get it done, but then don't come crawling to the table when we set the terms for what's going to happen next in Iran, or when we set the terms for what's going to happen after the war, where the oil might go. All right? If we set up the security infrastructure single-handedly, do you guys get a say then afterwards? Are you guys going to bitch and complain as much as you have been about all the economic woes? Oh, US, you're making this so hard for us, United States. You're making this so hard for us economically, United States. And then we go ahead and set up all the security infrastructure there. And we help the Middle East set up their security infrastructure and get the hell out, hopefully. What's Europe going to do next after that? Are they going to say, oh, man, United States, we wish you involved us in the conversations of actually setting up the security infrastructure. We would have loved to be a part of it. It's like, it's very two-handed. It's very two-faced. It's like, do you have principles to stand on? Do you know why we're in there in the first place? And do you even want to express your right to self-determination and make sure that your economies are stable? You know, Europe has a big problem with Russia right now in Ukraine, and they're trying to get $90 billion to Ukraine right now, and it's getting held up by Viktor Orban and Fico in Slovakia. Those are big problems in Europe. And right now, Europe is trying to get that money in there. Well, what I'm saying is Europe can also spend some money on themselves. They can sign military aid packages to themselves. They don't necessarily, if they can't pass it for Ukraine, maybe they can pass some of that money for themselves and get that economic kickback that they wanted anyways out of that deal. If their aim was to have this massive stimulatory event from passing that $90 billion, maybe they should consider using that same tactic for themselves, for what's going on with Iran. Maybe they should have thought of that back in February when they were making all these great, strong convictions that, oh, the Iranian regime is about to collapse in 2 weeks, said Chancellor Friedrich Merz, right? Oh, it's always Taco. Oh, moving the goalpost of when Iran is going to fall. Merz went to the White House and said, well, we support the U.S. effort, but we're not going to get involved militarily. It's like, why? Why won't you get involved? It's not like you're putting boots on the ground either. It's also air support stuff. It's also anti-missile stuff. They're just, I don't know, maybe they're just too focused on providing their military weight behind Ukraine so much. And that's justified in my eyes too, getting that support behind Ukraine, right? Even though I also think Orban and Fico have their own legitimate grievances. They were given exemptions to receive Russian oil, and now they're being cut off from that, and now they're having their own energy crises. They're not very happy about that. And so now they're blocking that $90 billion to Ukraine. Who knows? Maybe if Europe got involved in this operation, Epic Fury, earlier, and the war actually was contained within 2 weeks, and we're not going to have this huge humanitarian crisis now in the Persian Gulf of all these tanker crews running out of food and water, thousands of people now, on top of the thousands of people who already had their humanitarian crisis and lives taken back in January, right? Maybe if they got involved earlier, they could then use some of the oil and then send that through Croatia. Hopefully they figure out how to reduce the prices there, because Croatia is apparently charging a lot more. A lot more. But you know what? If you have Iran stabilized within a month and Europe was a part of it, Europe could then sit at the table and say, hey, we have this issue with Hungary and Slovakia. Maybe we can make a deal with them where instead of them taking Russian oil, they can take this new unsanctioned Iranian oil. And instead of giving it to the Chinese, we can give it to our European allies, get them off of the Russian oil. But no. Now there's been this huge commodities crisis, and Trump has had to unsanction a bunch of Russian oil to supply India with enough oil, has had to unsanction all this Iranian oil, and even more that has been loaded up into boats. So then China doesn't run out of oil. And now China is actually not exporting any of their fuel, and a lot of countries in Asia are not exporting their fuel. And there's this huge fuel crisis in Australia. I mean, I can bring up the chart here, but it's probably more useful if I brought up the freaking Discord. We have this whole thread right here. This huge ass thread. Aussie fuel shortage. And you can see we're following every single thing. Oh yeah, here's the video of fuel siphoning from a row of cars in Australia. You can actually see it. Yeah, you can see all these caps. Yeah, there's one car there. There's another car. Just people going in, stealing oil, or rather fuel, from Australian cars. Only 3 weeks into the war in Australia is running out of fuel. 107 petrol stations across New South Wales have run out of diesel. An entire town in Victoria has run dry. A report written in 2013 warned this would happen word for word. Every government for 25 years chose to ignore it. Oh, man. And this is New Zealand. This is New Zealand. It's insane. It's insane. And then for all the other commodities that are currently in crisis, we have the Iran commodities crisis thread, where we're posting every single little thing that we can find on new updates, on new countries. A lot of the stuff that I brought up in the Friday stream is right here. Actually, you can see here, this is one of the scenario analyses for oil prices above $100 a barrel for an extended period of time would have more non-linear effects on GDP and inflation. So if oil prices are above $100 for less than 6 months, the GDP downside is going to be about 10 basis points for every 10% drop in crude, or 10% rise in crude. Now, if oil is over $100 per barrel for more than 6 months, you're going to start to see hits of greater than 20 basis points to GDP per 10% in 10% move in crude oil. So this is insane. This is going to hit a lot of people. Here's a map. Energy at risk. Some economies rely on LNG that travels through the Strait of Hormuz for more than a quarter of total gas consumption. All these countries, the South Koreans, the Japanese, the Taiwanese, Singaporeans, the Thai, the Chinese, especially India and Pakistan and Europe, and Kuwait, a lot of these guys, they need to get more seriously involved in suppressing the attacks of Iran. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a huge ground invasion or even a ground invasion at all. But as it goes on for longer and longer, if the Iranians continue to send drones, then guess what? You're going to need to send people in on the ground because they refuse to surrender, because they refuse to give up, because they will literally fight to the death because they're fanatics, right? When we talk about terrorism around the world for the last however many decades, this is the hub of it. This is where the extremists are, okay? This is why there's this thing called the Iranian diaspora. This is why so many Iranians have had to leave. Normal, very, very competent, very, very smart Iranians have had to leave and make great contributions to the rest of the world, not in their own home country, where Iran would be a great, great potential technological power, because so many Iranians are actually doing great innovation in the AI space and in the tech space. They moved to the US and to Canada and to Europe, and they've been doing great, great work. But I'm sure if these guys had the choice, if there was no authoritarian, theocratic, religiously extreme, fundamentalist terrorist group running the country, they probably would have stayed, done and accomplished their achievements in Iran, and made the country phenomenally wealthy and phenomenally just great. Period. So do not think for a second that the Islamic Republic is a good thing to have in the world. They have no allies right now. They are getting a token support from Russia and token support from China. If there is a ground invasion in Iran, the Chinese aren't going to go to war for that. The Russians aren't going to go to war for that. No one is going to be developing the Axis powers in favor of Iran here. But I think I've now said my piece, right? I think I've said my piece, right? I mean, I don't want to go on and on and on, but, you know. Oh, should we buy corn and sugar futures? Actually, you know what? I was reading some stuff on sugar. And sugar is expected to do especially well. Based on a lot of analysis that I actually saw. I want sugar futures. Let's see here. Where are NYMEX sugar futures? And we can hide these things here. And you can see sugar is rising. A lot of sugar comes out of the Middle East. I think the two largest sugar refineries in the world are in the Middle East, is what I read. Why I'm kind of pinpointing sugar here. And we can also hide that. Sugar futures, that's in Russia. White sugar futures, sugar CFD. Yeah, you can see it's about the same chart. So I 100%, actually, you know what I did? I read that analysis a few days ago, and when I was grocery shopping, I went ahead and I bought like 2 months worth of sugar personally for myself and to kind of distribute to the family. Because sugar is especially price sensitive. It's used in a lot of processes, and it's very likely going to get hit. Now, I don't know how much sugar goes to the United States, but I wouldn't be surprised if sugar prices rose here. So it's just like, you know, sugar is really relatively cheap for where it is right now. I think just in case the price does go up, I'll make sure I buy some extra sugar right now, because it's very easy for me to just chuck it into the pantry and use it over like the next 4 or 5 months if it ends up being a nothing burger, right? But in the situation where, you know, sugar prices go up a third, by half, or double, it'd be very, very nice to have that sugar on hand and you know, not have to buy, oh, this month's sugar is twice as expensive as it was next month. And then the month after that, it doubles again. Like, oh no, I might just want to skip having sugar in my coffee or my tea today. Oh man, but there's all these other things I want to bake and cook that require sugar. Shit, I can't. Man, that sugar is expensive, huh? Isn't it? So I don't want to have that problem. So I just went ahead and did that. You know, that's also what I was doing back in February and January of 2020. I was on top of the COVID stuff, and I was people were looking at me kind of weird when I was buying all this toilet paper back in January. Like, why are you buying like months and months worth of toilet paper? And then I'd tell them, and they're like, oh, well, maybe I need to do the same thing. But most of those people, outside of a couple of people who knew me, you know, if you just tell a stranger that, they're going to think you're a prepper and a doomsday prepper, right? But the few people who knew me, and then I could send them a couple of links, they're like, oh, people are dying in China and they're dropping like flies. This is really bad. And they haven't closed their airports. They're letting people fly around the world and leave China with this going on right now. Oh my God, there's a likelihood this virus can spread. I better stock up in case this thing spreads and causes mass death, right? People were very, very concerned about it, very, very scared about it. I built a pantry because of how afraid I was, and that was the right thing to do. That pantry lasted like 5 or it lasted many, many, many months. For like most of the year, food was coming out of that pantry, man. I did a great job preparing for COVID before there were all these issues, and I got to avoid all the issues with COVID, going in and running out of toilet paper and all that shit. I was on top of it. And, you know, it's kind of sad to see what's happened to Styx Hexenhammer, because I was watching him, and every single video that guy helped out so many people prepare for COVID, because he did videos, multiple videos every single day, and he does geopolitical commentary, or at least did. He had a seizure not too long ago, and he isn't doing too well now. He kind of went a bit loopy. He started wearing a pirate hat and acting like a pirate. You know, it's his life, right? But man, I wish he took better care of himself. You know, I wish that. He's I don't know if he's nihilistic or something. I haven't quite kept up so much with him recently, but back then he was doing great commentary geopolitically every single day on multiple topics. And in those months, in December, January, February, leading up to COVID, he was responsible for getting me to check to do that stuff with the pantry and to get prepared. So, you know, for whatever happens to him, for whatever shit gets thrown his way, I'm always going to be grateful to Styx for that, because that helped out myself and my friends and my family so much in giving me that warning when so many other people and news outlets were just not talking about it at all, or they were talking about it too fucking late, or they were just too concerned with saying Orange Man bad. Oh my God, Trump is a racist for closing down all of the airlines, for shutting down all airport traffic going to China. He's such a racist, right? It's so tiring. So tiring. That was one of the best moves he could have done. And it likely reduced how much damage COVID did in the United States, and that China just let happen. Just, oh, we know this virus is going around dropping a bunch of people like flies, but we're not going to shut down our airports and just let people fly internationally anyways. Just China's so fucking responsible explicitly for that. They should be paying fucking reparations, but you know what? The Chinese people deserve reparations from the Communist Party. They've done so much terrible things to those people. Oh my God, let's not even go into it. I think we were talking about sugar, right? Not about the evil communist Chinese and how they kind of ruined everything for everybody for a long, long time during COVID, right? Yeah, man. Oh, we actually have bar charts for this. Yeah. Man, I've just been going on a massive number of rants. I'm kind of having fun just being this expressive. Having a lot of fun being this expressive. You know, I wish more people were watching during these streams because I'm having a lot of fun during these streams. But you know what? When people want to watch the weekly Friday streams, that's the one stream that they usually watch. I know we've been going on for like an hour and 20 minutes, and I haven't done too much charting, but you know what? I'm trying to do the charting. And when I look at assets, you know, let's say I look at New Zealand dollar, because I have a position on New Zealand dollar, right? We're short New Zealand dollar like this, right? And I'm looking at it, and also these lines, all this stuff, I am not interested in. I don't want these lines here. I'm not interested in that stuff. Let's see here. It's not dovish now. We're now expecting a hawkish RBNZ governor speech meeting at the Business NZ CEO Forum. Let's see here. This is hawkish. Actually, if I want, I can actually pull up real quick. Oh, nope, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the PDF. Right, there we go. And then dark mode. And then bring this guy over here. And then we can search for Business NZ. And there we go. A Reserve Bank of New Zealand. On March 24th, Governor Anna Bremen will deliver a keynote speech on monetary policy at the Business NZ CEO Forum, where she is expected to set expectations on the potential impact of economic and commodity disruptions from the Middle East. And then if we hit N again, really, is that it? Business NZ. How about RBNZ? How about that? Let's see here. Oh, yeah, there we go. In advance of the next formal policy review on April the 8th, Governor Anna Bremen will have the opportunity to guide the market when she delivers a speech to a local business audience on Tuesday, the 24th of March, which is now tomorrow, right? The speech will be delivered to the RBNZ website at 9 a.m. local time ahead of two other external engagement events that day, including one with external economists and analysts. While the RBNZ's advisory states that the speech will not preempt the Monetary Policy Committee's April Monetary Policy Review decision, at the very minimum, we expect the governor will lay out the framework the bank will use to analyze the impact of the war on the New Zealand economy, i.e., the main channels of influence and the short-term inflation and activity trade-offs that the Monetary Policy Committee may need to consider when setting monetary policy. Monetary policy. When words get repeated too frequently, it's just monetary policy. You know, first, Monetary Policy Committee's April Monetary Policy Review. Anyways, we think that there is a better than even chance that Bremen will go further or give a preliminary assessment on how the shock is impacting the Monetary Policy Committee's assessment of the policy outlook, right? Heyo, Kari. If she does, we think that her comments will lean against the market's current pricing of close to 325 basis point OCR rate hikes this year, which encompasses or compares starkly with the RBNZ's February monetary policy indication of just a chance of a single 25 basis point hike. We expect Bremen to acknowledge that headline inflation will be higher this year than forecasted in February, and And she may indicate an expectation that this negative output gap will remain for longer than the banks estimated in February. Given that higher oil prices and the current tightening of financial conditions will weigh on both the trading partner and domestic economic growth. Yeah, on trading partner and domestic economic growth. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, and then there's this whole thing on New Zealand fuel, right? We will be interested to see whether or not there's a larger impact on ANZ's release in its monthly consumer confidence index at the end of the week. So that's what we're going to be looking at for fuel-related stuff. Given the pressures that higher fuel prices will impose on household budgets in New Zealand, there are questions about whether the strength is consumer spending will be sustained, at least in the near term. Australia is actually in a slightly better position than New Zealand when it comes down to fuel. But Australia is going through their own fuel crisis. Haven't had a chance to join a Friday stream. Need to catch one. Sure, well, you can just watch the replay, my man. So let's see here. So maybe we go a bit up. Let's set an expectation here. We go a bit up. And then we can timestamp this for 2026, 0322, 1528. So we'll timestamp that. And then we'll go down here. That's just what I expect. Okay. I am fine with being wrong here. I am fine with being wrong. And yeah, we'll keep it at that. That would be my net expectation. I mean, look, if oil prices continue to rise, because they gapped up. They just gapped up today here. So crude opened. It's gapped up this week. That expectation didn't quite exactly match, but we are currently there now at the open after gapping up. So not the worst expectation in the world, but it could, it was fairly okay. So I'm not totally satisfied with that expectation, but it's okay. And then we can check out for the month. Oh yeah, that's right. We're trading in the tail here for the month. So we need to go to, I believe, a 2-hour chart to kind of look at things. Yeah, either I think the low might already be in. I mean, it's pretty much closed the gap. And then if the attacks do happen on Iran and then they continue to launch drones and missiles after the United States has gone in and attacked their energy infrastructure, not energy production, but their energy infrastructure, then I genuinely wouldn't be terribly, terribly surprised to see this go higher. If Trump is able to attack the energy infrastructure of Iran, and by energy infrastructure, I mean like the electricity, right? The power lines, that sort of stuff, not oil and gas production facilities and refineries, then it's going to help, hopefully, with preventing as many launches. But if it doesn't help with preventing as many launches, drone launches and missile launches, then, man, oil's going to continue to go higher. But Trump needs to keep up the pressure because there's a humanitarian crisis literally around the corner that's going to be picking up this week with all of these tankers that don't have enough fuel or food or water. And some of these people, I bet, need medicine, right? A lot of these people, I bet, also need medical help. And no one's able to fly in helicopters right now. But you know what? That's something Europe could definitely help with, is sending in humanitarian aid. United Nations could easily go ahead and do that. Send in humanitarian aid for all of the people stuck in oil tankers right now in the Persian Gulf. That's maybe what the United Nations could be helping out with right now. I would love to see the United Nations help on that front. because that's a huge humanitarian crisis that's a brewing, and a lot of people are going to go very, very hungry, and those are the people controlling the boats out there in the Persian Gulf, and we need to keep them healthy and happy and alive and well fed, and also well medicated if they need to be. Get them their medicine, right? But man, I sure hope things are resolved with this sooner or later, and that Iran is properly suppressed, and that those ships can leave the Persian Gulf and go to where they need to go. And then once all those ships leave, the rest of the Middle Eastern countries are going to slowly ramp things up. So commodity normalization will begin at that point. Because guess what? It's not going to be like this instantaneous thing. It's going to take a few days for all of those ships to leave the Persian Gulf. It's going to take a few days for a bunch of ships to leave the Persian Gulf. And also there's going to be a bunch of production hiccups. The loading of a bunch of new tankers in the Persian Gulf, once the Strait of Hormuz is no longer threatened by Iran, is going to grow only gradually at first, because they want to make sure Iran is not going to, stop launching attacks. And then suddenly there's like 100 drones that fly across the Gulf and hit all of these tankers that are loading up oil and all these different commodities and get blown up in the ports. That would be terrible. So we got to make sure that things are properly secured and handled there. Otherwise, and that's why these Middle Eastern countries, I expect, are going to take things on the slower side, even when the strait is back up and not under Iranian control. I mean, first you got to get all the ships out, and that's going to take a couple of days. And then you have to get the new ships in, and the new ships are going to be sitting there for a long time waiting to get filled on their orders, because these orders are going to get filled actually kind of slow. Frankly, they're going to get filled kind of slow. That's my expectation, because these countries are going to cautiously ramp stuff up because they don't want any kind of follow-up attacks, surprise follow-up attacks coming from the Iranians, right? So even if, again, the Strait of Hormuz is no longer under Iranian control, ships can safely pass through it, it's still going to take, who knows, a few weeks to even get basic operations going at even a moderate pace. And there's a lot of infrastructure that now needs to be repaired and turned back online. And shut-ins are not easy. All these oil production and gas production shut-ins, they also need to be turned on slowly. Because if you just ramp everything back up to 100%, and the Iranians suddenly jump back to life and start shooting drones again, you need to be able to hedge that. All these Middle Eastern countries, I expect, are going to completely hedge that risk of a rebound. Because if they turn everything back on and the Iranians somehow attack again after countries say, oh, the strait is safe, ships are passing through, let's turn on the production again, then the Iranians come back to life and they start attacking the Middle Eastern countries, it's just going to be a huge mess. It's going to be a terrible mess. And a lot of people would probably die in that scenario. It'd be really, really bad. So it's very, very important to get control over that strait and to isolate Iran from continuing to launch these attacks. So that then when production in the Persian Gulf and tanker commodity exports are ramped up again, there's no potential for interference. So it's very, it's not going to be anytime in the next 2 weeks that we start to see normalization, in my opinion. Even if Trump goes and bombs, like he says he's going to bomb all of their energy infrastructure. He's not going after their production facilities, not after oil and gas. He's going after their electricity, stuff that keeps the lights on. And when those are gone, the Iranians are very likely still going to continue to attack. And we can see oil is falling right now, falling. Wouldn't be surprised to see it rise a bit at some point into the week. I just still wouldn't be surprised if it continues rising. We closed the gap because, oil gapped up and now we've closed the gap. Wouldn't be surprised if we find a low somewhere around here for the week. So maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe on Aussie dollar. I mean, Aussie hasn't risen all that much in response to these oil prices coming down a bit here. How about Euro? Has Euro bounced even a bit? Yeah, it's bounced a bit. It's bounced a bit. We've the top for the week so far is right around here. But I really wouldn't be surprised to see Euro continue to fall here. Again, you need oil, especially Brent here, to stop going up. And right now, based off what we know geopolitically, even based off the operations right now that are expected to go on in the Middle East, as long as the Iranians can attack ships going through the strait, there is no recovery for oil. No recovery for oil as long as the Iranians can launch missiles. It's not happening. Not happening. I mean, again, there's like little blips like this and people get excited. But we're now at the top of this channel here for Brent. I mean, you can't even go to UK oil. And look at that. Oh, wow. Oil on for Brent? Yeah, check that out for CFDs. It's already at a peak right here. So maybe that is the low for the week. Maybe that is the low for the week and you start going higher now. All right, let's see how well that expectation holds up. Actually, let's look at some timing dots for this. So when the low for the week is right off the bat here, you have most of your tops around here, and then you have a couple over there. So let's do that. So this is given the low is right here, right off the bat of the week. Actually, I want to Brent futures. So let's do, I believe it's BB, right? Yeah, there we go. Brent crude oil futures. Oh, man. Yeah, Brent. How about that's in euros? Well, that should be fine. Wow. We're already at 110 here. This is insane. Insane in the membrane. Yeah, we're getting... I gotta hide these things. I have to look at... So, if this is the bottom for the week, Brent goes like that. Roughly over here. So I got to keep a note of the assets I'm drawing these lines on. So this is, what's the ticker? What is the ticker? So this is BRN. BRN1. Okay. Got to keep track of where you're setting your expectations. So that's that. And then UK oil, I believe. Okay, and we're using the trading view historical chart. Sweet. Okay, and TV, UK oil. Sweet. New Zealand dollar. I see you. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes up just a bit more. Just a bit more. Aussie is not recovering all that well. Let's see here. NZD, USD. I just wanted to see it with this. Oh, yeah, that does look good. But I kind of want to wait till the speech from the governor comes in. I want to wait for the speech from the governor. And then we can look at dollar yen. Let's see here. So this is sometime before the end of the week. Pretty much we're going to be getting the Japanese budget. Okay, so if we expect dollar to continue to appreciate against the yen, we are we need a bit more information. But it seems like the minimum target is past 160.3. So yeah, I would not be surprised to see quite higher prices around here. So like 161 this week. Would not be surprised to see 161 this week. It's just a matter of, okay, where? Now, the Japanese are expected to pass their fiscal policy here, and that's going to be a bit on the inflationary side. So when they pass that fiscal policy, I would expect the yen to continue to weaken. So I have a bit of a stronger bearish expectation here. And it seems like the largest cluster of dots is over here. I mean, you can look at these dots and pick discretionarily any cluster here. But I think this is just the baseline expectation to have going into a government in Japan that's printing more money and accelerating the process of passing that stimulatory, more loose fiscal policy on top of a really strong US dollar. So I would not be surprised to continue to see prices rise here. However, I genuinely wonder how significant the commentary is from these other these other from the, let's just say, the Bank of Japan and the Ministry of Finance in Japan, what their commentary is going to be when we start to get close to 161, because they have said in the last 2 or 3 weeks that we're watching volatility in the yen. We're watching the yen markets. We're watching the yen markets. Don't move too high, yen markets. But their fiscal policy is for a weaker yen, and the current geopolitical exogenous shocks are in favor of a weaker yen. So I'm, don't get me wrong, you can go ahead and this is a more directional expectation. I don't have precise, here's the swing low that I'm expecting and the exact swing high. This is just a more directional expectation based on what's going on fiscally with Japan and what's going on geopolitically with their exposure to oil. Now they have a large strategic petroleum reserve, right? Japan has a large strategic petroleum oil reserve. But there are some things that they still can't make because they have to import some refined products. So they have the oil, but they also need the refined products. And there are some things that they are running out of. Like there are some plastic packages that they need refined products, oil refined products for, petroleum refined products for. And there are packaging. There's packaging for food. There's packaging for products and services and goods that they're not able to make right now. So a lot of companies are looking for alternative forms of packaging right now for their products because they can't get the products. There's just not enough fuel going around to create those products. And so the prices of the remaining stock of these packaging materials are going through the roof right now. I mean, Japan just went through this whole thing with rice getting expensive as shit. Now they're having to deal with all their packaging getting super expensive. I mean, look, Japan's going to see quite a bit more inflation here. I know the BOJ is on the more hawkish side, but I wouldn't be surprised if over the next couple of months here, if Japan, if they are at risk of seeing inflation move to an extent where the Bank of Japan starts giving commentary that they may have to hike 50 basis points instead of 25. I see the risk of that potentially happening here between now and their next meeting. If there's a continued acceleration in inflation costs of goods, of energy, and now of food with all the fertilizer issues that we have. Oh, man. And then who else is also having major fertilizer issues? Well, actually, the U.S. is doing pretty okay. They have some issues. But we're actually getting a decent amount of fertilizer actually from Canada. Let's see here. What else is there? Although I do know that the U.S. is going to see some higher food prices. That's just absolutely going to happen. But let's see here. What else is there? Oh, man. I mean, there's also the UK. What's going on with our ancestral brothers here over in the UK from across the pond? Over here in the USA. Let's see here. There's a cluster of dots right here. There's another cluster slightly higher, another cluster slightly lower. If we just continue with this bullish expectation, it would look something like this. But we're not expecting that. We're expecting more something along these lines here. As we get a stronger dollar. Now, from what I understand, and this is actually going to be a bit more interesting just to me personally, I don't know who the hell is looking at cross pairs, but Euro Pound, I'm looking at it and it looks like, wow, right? Wow. That is a huge move for the cross, for the Euro Pound. The pound has been getting stronger and stronger since Operation Epic Fury. You can see right here was the last trading day before Operation Epic Fury began. And since Operation Epic Fury began, the Euro Pound has just been down to the bottom of the sea. And it went sideways here for about a week, and now up. It just jumped up. So, is Europe in a better position economically, energy-wise, than the UK? Well, you know, I know I keep closing and reopening it, but I got to bring it up again. Let's go here. And we have something here, I believe, on fiscal policy. UK fiscal policy, yeah. The sharp rise in long-term yields also carries fiscal implications for the United Kingdom government. long-term government bonds are now back at the same levels where fiscal concerns took hold of the gilt market last year. If market rates stay at these levels for a sustained period of time, expect a revival of fiscal concerns. As rising bond yields and higher inflation, a third of outstanding bonds are index-linked, risk obliterating the chancellor's fiscal headroom. So you could end up seeing euro pound go up higher as inflation-linked bonds and their yields to those inflation-linked bonds skyrocket if inflation in the UK rapidly accelerates. That is the primary issue here. Man, aren't those notes so helpful? Aren't those notes so helpful? I'm very happy to have those notes. So, that might be getting ahead of expectations, though. If we are concerned about things fiscally, we want to look at yield spreads. So let's look at the yield spreads. Wow, those are negative. Wow, those are some negative yield spreads. Those are some pretty negative yield spreads. And the timing dots say, hey, if you go any lower from here, you're going to end up like sub 56. No, not 56. You're going to end up sub 86. And 86 is right there, just a bit below the last low here. Did my alert not set? Yeah, there we go. So that's about where the cross is. And you can see that's where these dots line up. So that's if this is the top. If this is the top for the week, or rather, if that's the top for the month, and we still have more headroom to go lower. I mean, look, oh, I put an alert on this. Okay. I put an alert on my drawing. That's interesting. All right, let's timestamp this. 54. Yeah, those are some negative yield spreads. Just across the board, all these durations are super negative. They're very, very bearish. Outside of the 2, the 3, the 5, and arguably maybe the 7, it's all not in a particularly great position here. I'm looking at this and I'm more inclined to actually short this jump higher. At least in the short term, until the UK's fiscal policy concerns become much more evident and much more clear to everyone else's expectations. And that might be something for next month, frankly. We would need to see Brent go much higher, right? Oh, BRN 1. There we go. We would need to see Brent get to 120, 130. Look, just the higher this thing treks up, the more issues there's going to be for UK inflation and for European inflation, frankly. Man, I'll tell you what, I sure as hell bet that the UK government right now is really regretting not taking advantage of their offshore drilling right now. Because you've had a lot of politicians in the UK say, no, we shouldn't drill. We shouldn't drill in the offshore oil fields. No, let's not do that. There's all this oil that would make the UK energy independent and bring down manufacturing costs so significantly for the UK. But they say, no, let's not do that. It's like the Canadians, right? It's exactly like what's going on with the Canadians. Oh, we can build these great pipelines that go from east to west instead of having to go through the pipelines that cut through the United States. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to approve any of these pipelines. You know, now you want to talk about why Alberta, the largest oil producing state in Canada, which is also the one that contributes the most taxes to the country, practically, I believe, why they want to secede from Canada. Same thing with Quebec, but they have different reasons, right? Oh, man. Yeah, the UK have similar issues, oil, bureaucratic related issues, as Canada does, with people getting in the way of oil industrialists going in, doing their job, and making manufacturing incredibly affordable and incredibly profitable, and making energy super, super cheap for these countries. But they don't want to do it. They don't want to go in. And now that they don't have those projects that they could have started like 5 years ago producing energy for themselves, now when crises like this happen, they're at the whim of the rest of the world. They're at the whim of what the prices are for other countries, what the demand is, what the current supply available is, instead of taking responsibility for their own energy. And, you know, they can talk about, you know, electric and solar and wind all they want, but it's not going to have the impact that oil is going to have. It's just not. Or even natural gas. It's not. And in emergencies like these, it's vital to have access to that supply. I mean, if you want to be a powerful, economically strong country, you need that, even as a backup, right? Even if you go down the road of solar and wind and all that. And you can strive to make so much of your energy come from that and be self-sustaining based off that. But you need to have a backup. You need to have a secure source of supply of oil. Because when stuff gets turned off in the rest of the world and you're dependent on it, guess who's going to get hit the worst? It's going to be the countries that didn't secure their own energy supply. Yeah, quite bad, quite bad. So, based off these yield spreads, I wouldn't be surprised to see lower euro pound. And based off these timing dots, I wouldn't be surprised to see below 86 cents for euro dollar, or euro pound rather, by the end of the month. I wouldn't be surprised. I just wouldn't. Ah, man. All right. Well, I think, out of gas now. My momentum is now slowing down. I'm very, very happy with the rants I did this stream, and I'm very, very happy with at least some of the analysis I was able to do here towards the end of the stream. I'll say thank you guys, seriously, who have stuck with me through the whole stream. We had 5 people watching at some point during the stream. I was very, very happy to see that, even if it was only for a brief moment, to just see people even on their busy Sundays, stepping in, checking in, saying hi. I always am going to appreciate, because the channel isn't that strong right now. It's not that big right now. But every single stream, it gets a little bit more consistent. More people watching, more people chatting. I'm always so grateful for everyone who's participating in the trading group. Eventually Ari, man, Ari's always there. He's a great friend. And then, of course, Ani, always hanging out, always keeping me great company. So some shout outs for you guys. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And again, I'm going to be gone for a good portion of next week. Starting on Thursday, I leave, and I don't come back until the following Wednesday. So I'll be in the Discord. I will be active on the Discord. I will be doing geopolitical research in the Discord. And on this shitty-ass laptop, I will make sure I look through Outlooks and notes and go through my email. And I'll try and get the notes up, but I cannot make any kind of guarantees for streams whatsoever. So assume no streams between Thursday of next week to Wednesday, because I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be doing some fun stuff. I'm going to be helping out some friends with stuff they really need help with. And I'm going to have a lot of fun doing it. And it's a very, very good thing. They really needed the help. They couldn't find anyone else to help. So I'm like, you know what? I'll step in. I don't mind. Even if I have to take a break for a week during one of the largest geopolitical crises in the world. But you know what? If something big enough happens, I think I'll try and find an excuse. Maybe I'll go live on my phone and just sit down and talk with people. Maybe I'll try going live with this thing at like 480p because the battery wouldn't last for a second, right? Maybe it'd have to be extremely short, like 30-minute streams. But we will figure it out, and we'll have a continuation of normal streams again sometime in a fortnight from now, right? Not this Friday, but the next Friday. We will have our week ahead trade plan streams. And definitely notes and all that. I'll try and get notes done for next week, or rather this upcoming week here. Even though I'll be doing a hell of a lot of driving, that's for sure. Okay. I'll say thank you guys very, very much for watching. I am going to be clipping this stream, so then hopefully while I'm gone, there'll be some scheduled videos that come out. And hopefully, you know, we'll still see some people showing up, some new people in the Discord, right? It's always great to see when the channel is growing. And we've gone from 10 to 20 to 30 subscribers. And you know what's also very nice? The viewership on one video to the next keeps going up. And we were getting thousands of views on shorts when I was posting some shorts. I've been kind of too busy doing other stuff, so I haven't been able to make some edits for new shorts. But I'm definitely clipping this stream. I'm very, very happy with how this stream has turned out. So I'll just say thank you guys very much for watching, who've stuck with me through this stream and all the other streams and the future streams. And to everyone else who finds me and decides to join the Discord and hop into those research threads and help us do good trade research. And then some trade plans from that research. Very, very much appreciated. So thank you guys very much again, and I will see you all